We want to tell you about a family that moved to Calgary from Ontario. They did everything right, did their research, bought a brand new detached home, $900K. They moved in December, right before the holidays. Then 6 months later, they started noticing a smell. Musty, faint at first, then not faint anymore. They opened the wall. Mold inside a brand new home, 6 months old. Their builder told them it was their fault for running a humidifier. Their agent, who had held their hand through the entire new construction process, had never once asked a single question about the vapor barrier or the insulation specification, because they didn't even know what those things were. That family spent $40,000 fixing a problem that should have never existed in a new home. And the reason it existed, the specific phase of construction where it all went wrong, is something that we're going to show you today.
Building in Alberta is not like building anywhere else in the country. The temperature swings, the building code requirements, the specific materials and techniques required to keep a home performing at -40. All of it creates a construction process that most buyers and frankly most agents have never been educated on. We're part of BRIX Real Estate Group. We've done over $600 million in transactions in this market, a significant chunk of that in new construction. We've watched every phase of this process up close, and today we're walking you through all of it, from the first scoop of dirt to the final grade certificate, so you know exactly what should be happening on the job site and what to ask when it isn't. I'm saving the most important phase for later, because once you understand it, you'll know exactly what went wrong in our family's wall.
Before a single piece of dirt moves, there's a mountain of work that happens first. Most new communities in Alberta are governed by architectural guidelines. These are rules that tell the builder what the home is allowed to look like. The roof pitch, the siding color, the garage placement, all of this is locked in before the design starts. Beyond the neighborhood level rules, the builder needs 2 municipal approvals before anything starts. A development permit, which confirms the land use is appropriate, and a building permit. That confirms the structure will meet the National Building Code, the 2023 Alberta edition. Both in hand before any physical work begins.
And then there's a stakeout. Surveyors come out and physically mark the exact footprint of the house within the property lines. It sounds procedural, but skip it or get it wrong and you've got a very expensive legal problem before you've poured a single yard of concrete. The permits are about what you're allowed to build. So what comes next is about what the land actually demands. And in Alberta, the land demands something you won't see in any other province.
This is where Alberta separates itself from every other province. We call it the Big Dig. The frost line in Alberta sits at about 4 feet deep. That's the depth at which the ground freezes in winter. Sounds manageable, but here's what matters. Water and sewer lines don't go at 4 feet. They go 7 to 8 feet deep, sometimes more. Because in Alberta, deep freeze doesn't stop at 4 feet, it keeps going. And if your water line freezes, that's not a $200 fix. That is a disaster. So when you see an excavator digging what looks like a massive pit for a single family home, that's why. The basement hole itself typically goes 8 to 9 feet deep. Before the foundation is poured, utility rough-ins are also brought in from the street so the home connects to the municipal grid from day one.
If you're coming from Ontario, BC, you probably never thought about the same frost line depth. It's not a variable where you grew up. In Calgary, it is, and it drives decisions about foundation depth, utility burial, and drainage that affect the home's performance over decades. Ask your builder what depth utilities are buried at. If they can't answer that right away, that tells you something. The depth is a start, but the real engineering challenge begins when they start building up, because everything above grade has to survive what happens below -30.
Foundation goes in next. Footings are poured first. These are the shoes of the house. Their entire job is to distribute the weight of the structure into the soil without settling or shifting. Then comes cribbing. Wooden forms are built to shape the basement walls. Here's the detail most people don't know. Alberta concrete mixes are specifically engineered for our freeze and thaw cycles. You cannot use a generic mix in this climate and expect it to hold for decades. A quality builder knows this and specs it out accordingly. After the walls are set, weeping tile goes in, a perforated drainage pipe around the base of the foundation that pulls groundwater away before it can build up pressure against the wall. And the exterior gets coated in a black, damp-proofing membrane. That's what keeps your basement dry for the life of the home.
Framing is when the house finally starts to look like a house. The skeleton goes up using a combination of traditional lumber and engineered wood products, I-joists and LVL beams. Engineered wood matters in Alberta specifically because our winters are brutally dry. Traditional lumber shrinks in dry conditions. That shrinking is where squeaky floors come from, where gaps appear, and where a house that felt solid at possession starts to feel less solid 3 winters in. Good builders account for this on the material spec, but not all of them do. Once the skeleton is complete, the house gets wrapped in a breathable membrane. In Alberta's climate zone, this is not optional. It blocks wind and moisture from the outside while still allowing internal humidity to escape. The wall has to breathe in one direction only. You don't want to get this wrong or you've created a trap.
The house wrap that Andrew just mentioned is about what comes in from the outside. What comes next is about what happens on the inside. And it's the thing that failed in that wall that we told you about at the start of this video. High efficiency furnaces are mandatory in Alberta, not optional, not a premium upgrade. They're required. And most quality builds now include heat recovery ventilators, also known as HRVs. In a tightly sealed Alberta home, you need a mechanical system to manage air quality. An HRV captures heat from outgoing stale air and pre-warms incoming fresh air. Significant energy saving and critical for air quality in a home that's this sealed. Triple pane windows go in during this phase. The thermal resistance difference between double and triple pane is not a luxury gap, it's a comfort and efficiency gap you feel every January in Alberta. Once the roof and windows are in, the house hits lockup, interior work can continue now regardless of the weather outside, which in Calgary matters because we build all year round.
Now this is the phase most buyers never see. Most agents never understand, and it's the phase that when it fails, and it absolutely can fail, produces exactly what happened in that family's wall. The Alberta Building Code requires R60 insulation in the attic and R22 in the walls. Those numbers exist because of the physics of heat transfer in -40 climate are very unforgiving. But the insulation is only half of it. Every interior surface of an Alberta home gets covered in a 6mm poly sheet, a thick plastic membrane called the vapor barrier. And every single seam, every junction, every penetration where a wire or pipe passes through gets sealed with red tuck tape. Here's exactly what it's doing. In the winter, the air inside your home is warm and carries moisture. Humidity from cooking, breathing, showers, daily life. Without a vapor barrier, the moisture mitigates into the wall cavity. It travels towards the cold exterior. When it hits cold enough material, it condenses. In the Alberta winter, it freezes. And when spring comes, it thaws and it sits there, wet inside your wall, week after week, season after season.
And that is how you get mold inside a brand new home. It's not bad luck, it's not a humidifier, a vapor barrier that was installed carelessly or not sealed properly or inspected by an agent who didn't know what they were looking at. If you get a pre-drywall walkthrough, and you should ask for one, look for the poly. It should cover every interior wall and ceiling surface with no gaps. Look for the red tuck tape at every seam, every electrical box, every plumbing penetration. If the tape is missing in spots or the poly is torn and not patched, those are failure points. A builder who is proud of their work will show you this without you asking. A builder who isn't will schedule the drywall before you can even get eyes on it.
So if you see red tape everywhere on a new build, that's a good sign. That is a builder who's paying attention to the invisible stuff. The last phase is the one people think about when they imagine building a house. Drywall, paint, cabinets, flooring, the visible stuff. But outside, before you touch a single shovel of landscaping, there's a requirement most buyers learn about at exactly the wrong moment: the final grade. The lot must be sloped away from the foundation. Water needs to drain away from the house, not towards it. A final grade certificate from the municipality is a legal requirement before permanent landscaping can proceed. We've seen buyers lose their landscaping deposits and have to tear out thousands of dollars of sod, trees, and deck work because they didn't know this existed. Do not lay your sod, do not plant your trees, do not build your deck until that certificate's in your hands. Depending on the time of year you take possession, you may have to wait for this for months and months on end as well. So speak with your builder.
That family in Ontario who moved here and found mold in their walls 6 months in, Their builder hadn't done anything technically illegal. The vapor barrier was there, but it wasn't sealed properly, and nobody on their side of the transaction knew enough to check. Their agent walked through a pre-drywall inspection and saw plastic on the walls and said it looked great. $40,000 later, they know what red tuck tape is. They know what it does, and they know where every penetration should be sealed.
Now you know too, before you ever sign anything. If you're buying new construction in Calgary, or if you're relocating and thinking about a new build, the questions you ask during this process aren't just about finishings and floor plan. They're about what's inside the walls, what depth the utilities are buried, what the vapor barrier specification is, what the insulation R value actually is. Those are the questions a competent agent asks without you having to prompt them.
If you want to work with a team that asks those questions as standard, everything is in the description. Book a call with us directly. We've done this hundreds of times and we know exactly what to look for.
Drop build in the comments and we'll send you our Alberta new construction checklist. The actual questions to ask at every phase of your build.
After watching this video, you should be fully armed with all the information that you need when you're buying a new construction home. And if you learned one thing today, please consider subscribing to our channel. Make sure you like this video, drop build down in the comments, and we will see you guys on the next one.